Welcome to my channel, The Crew in KY. Please don't forget to drop a like, and if you haven't yet, smash the subscribe button. Thanks, guys.
The world was ending. At least that's what Jack believed. Every news report, every natural disaster, every conflict, it was all confirmation.
The end is nigh.
Jack, a man of unwavering conviction, dedicated his life to preparing. He stockpiled supplies, fortified his home, and planned for every catastrophe imaginable.
I have to be ready for everything.
Jack saw the world through a lens of impending doom. Shadows held threats, normalcy was a facade, and every stranger a potential enemy.
They don't see it, but I do. I have to protect my family.
His obsession with survival morphed into an all-consuming paranoia.
I won't let anything happen to them. Not on my watch.
The world might not have been ending, but for Jack's family, it sure felt like it. Sarah, Jack's wife, had learned to navigate his anxieties like a sailor in a storm.
I love him, but this is no way to live.
Their son Michael knew no other life. Jack's paranoia had become his normal.
Why can't we just be like other families?
Michael yearned for the freedom to roam, to experience life beyond the confines of their home.
I just want to be free.
But his father's fears were his chains, binding him to a life he didn't choose. Jack, blinded by his own anxieties, remained oblivious to the toll his actions took on his family.
I'm doing this for us, to keep us safe.
He saw himself as their savior, but his actions painted a different picture.
Dad, why can't we just live like everyone else?
His obsession with survival had blinded him to their silent suffering.
Jack, we can't go on like this.
But Jack was too entrenched in his fears to hear their pleas.
You don't understand. I'm doing this for you, for all of us.
Nightfall brought a different kind of dread into Michael's life.
Do we have to go out again, Dad?
Under the cloak of night, Jack would lead Michael out of their fortified house and deep into the surrounding woods.
We need to be ready for anything, Michael, even the dark.
The forest, vibrant by day, transformed into a menacing entity at night.
I don't like this, Dad. It's too dark.
Fear gnawed at Michael, shaping his young mind in ways he couldn't yet understand.
I just want to go home.
At first, Michael found a strange comfort in these nocturnal excursions.
Yeah, it was different out there. Kind of scary, but freeing too.
Jack, usually stoic, seemed animated during these outings.
Michael, look at this plant. It's edible. Now let's start a fire with just sticks and stones.
Jack taught Michael survival skills, but woven into these lessons was a more sinister thread.
Remember, Michael, the world out there is dangerous. People will do anything to survive.
Jack's teachings went beyond basic survival, speaking of a world gone mad.
You must be ready to protect yourself no matter what.
Michael absorbed his father's words, believing they would save them.
Dad says these things will save us. I have to learn them.
As Michael grew older, seeds of doubt began to sprout in his mind.
Sometimes, son, you have to make impossible choices to survive.
Michael noticed that these threats often sounded like his mother.
Your mother, she's too soft. She doesn't understand what it takes to survive.
But Dad, Mom's just trying to help.
The tension in Michael's mind grew as he struggled to reconcile his father's harsh teachings with his love for his mother.
I don't understand why Dad says these things.
The seeds of doubt began to take root, challenging his father's narrative. The walls of their home now felt like the suffocating walls of a tomb to Sarah.
I can't breathe in here anymore. It's like the walls are closing in.
Jack's paranoia had reached a fever pitch, his whispers turning into harsh accusations.
What has he become? I need to know what he's telling Michael.
A faint light flickered from Michael's room, and she paused, her hand hovering over the knob.
Oh my God, what is he telling our son?
Sarah stood frozen, her heart pounding, as the chilling realization of Jack's influence over Michael began to dawn on her.
I have to protect Michael. We have to go, Michael, now.
Sarah's voice, though a mere whisper, cut through the darkness, jolting Michael from his terrified stupor.
Mom, what's happening?
The woods loomed outside the window, casting the world in an unsettling darkness.
I'm scared, Mom.
Sarah's hand, surprisingly strong, pulled him through the inky blackness. The only sounds were the frantic beating of their hearts and the rasp of their breath as they fled into the unknown. Years blurred into a tapestry of cheap motels, borrowed names, and fleeting moments of normalcy. Michael grew taller, his features hardening with the weight of their secret.
I knew deep down that our escape wasn't a guarantee of safety.
Sarah, her youthful energy replaced by a weary resilience, did her best to create a semblance of a normal life for Michael. She told him stories of a past that never was, painting a picture of a life they had been forced to abandon. He clung to those stories, to the hope they represented, even as the reality of their situation cast a long shadow over their lives. Michael learned to wear a mask of normalcy, of carefree laughter and teenage bravado.
I blended in with the other kids, played sports, even went to dances.
But beneath the surface, the fear lingered, a constant hum in the background of his life.
I never spoke of my father, of the nights spent in the woods.
He buried those memories deep, hoping to suffocate them with silence.
Every unfamiliar car that slowed as it passed, every stranger's gaze that lingered too long sent a jolt of fear through me.
The past had a way of clawing its way back, a persistent ghost haunting the edges of his new life.
I would find myself scanning crowds, searching for a face I desperately hoped never to see again.
Time, that great healer, worked its slow magic.
I met Emily, a bright-spirited girl who chipped away at the walls I had so carefully erected around my heart.
Her laughter was a balm to his soul, her presence a warm light in the darkness that clung to him.
I fell in love, slowly, cautiously, terrified of the secrets I carried.
Emily, with her unwavering love and acceptance, coaxed his story out of him, piece by painful piece. They built a life together, a fragile piece constructed on a foundation of shared love and unspoken fears. The supermarket was a cacophony of sound.
I pushed our cart, my hand resting lightly on Emily's back as she scanned the shelves for our usual groceries.
A chill snaked down his spine, a primal instinct warning him of danger.
I stopped, my gaze sweeping the crowded aisles, searching for the source of my unease.
And then he saw him. Standing at the end of the aisle, partially obscured by a tower of cereal boxes, was Jack.
My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the backdrop of ordinary chaos.
The years had aged him, but there was no mistaking that cold, calculating gaze.
Jack was back.
Time seemed to warp, stretching into an eternity as Michael stared at his father.
Humming, what about this brand of pasta sauce?
Emily, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding beside her, continued scanning the shelves.
I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't tear my gaze away from the specter of my past.
It was as if his body, his mind, had become paralyzed, frozen in the headlights of an oncoming train.
Michael, is everything all right? You seem pale.
Emily's voice, filled with concern, broke through the fog of fear that had descended upon him.
I had to act, had to protect her, shield her from the darkness that threatened to engulf us once more.
Emily's hand reached out, touched his arm, a gesture of love and reassurance.
Michael?
His silence, his fear was a betrayal. He knew that.
For a fleeting moment, I entertained the impossible, that I could somehow will this apparition away.
But the weight of years of fear, of ingrained obedience pressed down on him, rendering him speechless.
I had to protect her, no matter the cost.
Michael.
Emily's voice, sharper now, more insistent, broke through his paralysis. He blinked, the fog in his mind clearing slightly. He had to get her out of there, now. He grabbed her hand, his grip tight, urgent, his eyes still locked on Jack's figure at the end of the aisle.
We have to go, Emily, now!
His voice was a strained whisper, barely audible above the background noise of the supermarket. But the urgency in his tone, the fear that laced his words, cut through her confusion. They moved quickly, their shopping cart abandoned, forgotten amidst the mundane necessities of their former life. Each step felt heavy, weighted down by the invisible specter that followed them. Michael risked a glance over his shoulder, his heart sinking as he saw Jack, his face a mask of grim determination, following them, weaving through the crowd with a predator's grace. The bustling city streets offered no solace, no escape. Each turn, each narrow alleyway seemed to echo with the heavy thud of their pursuers' footsteps. Michael's grip on Emily's hand tightened, his knuckles bone-white, his fear a tangible presence between them. They ran, their breath catching in their throats, the sounds of the city fading into a dull roar. Car horns blared, a cacophony of urban chaos, yet none of it seemed to register. Not really. Their world had shrunk to the frantic beat of their hearts, the rasp of their breath, the ever-present threat that shadowed their every move. Michael glanced back, his heart plummeting to his stomach. Jack was closer now, his face illuminated by the harsh glare of a streetlight, a grotesque caricature of his former self. The years might have etched lines on his face, but they had done nothing to dim the chilling intensity of his gaze. He was a hunter, relentless and driven, and they were his prey. The alley opened into a small, trash-strewn courtyard, a dead end. Michael spun around, his back pressed against the cold brick wall, Emily trembling beside him. Their escape had led them to a cage of their own, a concrete jungle with no exit. Jack walked towards them, his steps slow, deliberate, his eyes never leaving Michael's face. He stopped a few feet away, a triumphant smirk playing on his lips.
You can't hide from me forever, Michael.
His voice was raspy, as if unused for years. Michael's hands clenched into fists, his fear giving way to a surge of protectiveness. He would not let his father hurt Emily, not now, not ever. The years of suppressed anger, of buried fear, rose within him, a potent cocktail of adrenaline and desperation. It's over, Jack. The voice, calm and steady, cut through the tense silence. It wasn't Michael who spoke, but Sarah, her slight figure emerging from the shadows at the mouth of the alley. Her face, etched with years of hardship and worry, held an unfamiliar resolve, her eyes fixed on her former tormentor with unwavering determination. A gasp escaped Emily's lips as she recognized the woman from the faded photographs, the woman who haunted Michael's dreams. Sarah, her hands trembling slightly, raised a small silver pistol, her finger resting on the trigger. The metallic glint of the weapon seemed to illuminate the darkness, a beacon of defiance in the face of overwhelming fear.
You won't win, Jack. Not tonight, not ever.
Her words, heavy with years of unspoken pain and quiet resilience, hung in the air, a challenge and a promise. The nightmare that had haunted their lives for so long was about to end, not with a whimper, but with a bang. The gunshot echoed in the narrow confines of the alleyway, a sharp final punctuation mark to a lifetime of fear. Jack crumpled to the ground, a look of stunned disbelief etched on his face, his eyes staring blankly at the night sky. The gun clattered to the ground, spinning silently on the pavement, as if even it couldn't comprehend the sudden shift in power. Michael stood frozen, his body still coiled tight with the anticipation of a fight that had never materialized. His gaze shifted from his father's lifeless form to his mother, her face pale and drawn in the flickering streetlight, the gun trembling in her outstretched hand. It was over. The years of running, of hiding, of looking over their shoulders had come to an end in this brutal, unexpected moment. The weight of his father's madness, a burden Michael had carried for so long, lifted, leaving behind a strange emptiness, a void where fear had once resided. Life, with its uncanny ability to move on, continued. The city, oblivious to their personal tragedy, buzzed and hummed around them. Cars sped past, their horns blaring, their headlights cutting through the darkness. The smell of exhaust fumes and stale pizza hung heavy in the air, a familiar urban symphony that now held a bittersweet note. They walked away from the alley, a family forever bound by their shared trauma, their steps lighter, their breaths coming easier. The scars of the past, though still visible, no longer felt like open wounds. They were reminders, etched in the fabric of their being, of a darkness they had faced and overcome. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple, Michael wrapped his arms around Emily and his mother, holding them close, drawing strength from their presence. The world was a tapestry of light and shadow, of beauty and pain, but in that moment, surrounded by the people he loved, he allowed himself to believe that even after the darkest nights, the sun would rise again.